people have asked me this question. Everybody's talking about it. People said I should do a sermon about this and really address this question so God's people can have an answer. The question is, should we take the vaccine or no? And people want an answer. You know, they want a straight answer. So give me an answer so that I know that my pastor told me, or my church told me, or I don't know who I look up to told me, and the answer is yes or no. Yes, okay, or oh, well, maybe I disagree, but an answer or no, maybe then I will fight, and that justifies it. And we're looking for something on the human level. Let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. The battle that is coming is not just a physical battle. The battle to capture Elisha was not just the army of Assyria trying to catch him. He could see that there was a spiritual battle going on. He said, they that be with us are more than they that be with them. Let me tell you something, even the question of the vaccine, yes or no, the answer is not just limited to the human scope of the here and the now, seeing with our senses. The answer has to take into account the invisible, seeing with the eye of faith, and taking into consideration how God sees things and that perspective. So I put it to you, and this might be a bit challenging, that asking whether I should take the vaccine or not and looking for a yes or no answer is not really asking the right question. The right question should be, do you have faith? Do you have faith? The outcome of you taking the vaccine or not, or what will happen, and the unseen and the invisible and the expectation and the you know, whatever the outcome will come, the outcome will happen, whatever you're fearful of or concerned about, it really boils down to whether you are fearful or have faith. Do you really have faith? What do I mean by that? Because in Hebrews chapter 11, I want you to remember this. In Hebrews chapter 11, we have a list of the heroes of faith. You have a very interesting description of a group of people who actually, we are told, that through faith, they escaped the edge of the sword towards the end of the chapter. I don't know if you remember reading it, you're familiar with that, but through faith, they conquered, they defeated armies, and it says that they escaped the edge of the sword. The sword is a deadly weapon. Through faith, they escaped the edge of the sword. But if you read a couple of verses later, not far, just a few, 2 verses down from those who through faith escaped the edge of the sword, you will find that it actually says that others through faith were slain by the sword. I want you to think about that. Through faith, some escaped the edge of the sword. Through faith, and it's not a lesser faith, through the same faith, they were slain by the sword. So what does that mean? The outcome is not identical. The outcome is not the same, but one was through faith and the other was still through faith. When we ask these questions, should I take or not, should I do or not, this or that, we're looking for a standard, uniform outcome we all agree to. Everybody agrees, yeah, no, we're not going to take the vaccine, or we're going to go, what are you going to go fight with human weapons? We fight with spiritual weapons. So looking for that same outcome is not the key. In this chapter, in Hebrews chapter 11, we see a different outcome, the opposite outcome, and one was through faith and the other one was also through faith. So this is why I'm saying the question is not, shall I take it or not? The question is, do you have faith? Why? Do you trust that God can lead you and guide you? And guess what? In some people's case, it might be that they will escape the point of the needle. Let me put it in the perspective of here and now. Escape the edge of the sword. Through faith, some might escape the point of the needle. And through faith, some might actually be slain by the point of the needle. The question is, do you have faith? You see the point? I hope you're seeing the point. Because so many people today, they complain, say, oh, my pastor says we should take it, oh, the big wars, we should, disagreeing. Or some other people saying, we're determined not to take it no matter what. I'm not sure what that entails or how they're going to enforce that. But listen, if you think that the battle in the last days is going to be navigated through human effort, through human ingenuity and human ability or skill or artifice or whatever you might think it is on the human level, then you're going to be in for a very bad surprise. The battle in the last days will only be navigated if you see the invisible. And when you see the invisible, it's only possible by faith. And by faith, as we saw, some people escaped the edge of the sword. By faith, some others were slain by the edge of the sword because they had a better outcome. They expected a resurrection. They did not fear them that killed the body, but are not able to kill the soul. They rather feared God and trusted in God, and the outcome was in his hand. Their life was in his hand. That is the question that should really concern us, brothers and sisters, more than any other question. Because if you have that, if you can see the invisible, and by faith you follow in God's direction, guess what? God will navigate you through whatever scenario will develop. The problem in the last days, let me put it to you, is going to be more than just whether I take the vaccine or not. Look, if you're thinking this is it, this is the issue, once you settle that point, you're safe, you're in for a surprise. There is coming all kinds of scenarios, all kinds of situations that we cannot even dream of. And you will not be able to navigate if you're expecting someone to tell you and ask, do this, do that, do this, do that, from a human outlook and a human perspective. You will be able to navigate it only if you can see the invisible. You have faith, you commune with your maker, and God directs you, and God will intervene in miraculous ways in many cases, like he did with Elisha, and like he did in this example we see in Hebrews. Some escape the edge of the sword through faith, and in some cases some will have to be slain by the sword. And it's not less faith. This is the point I want to make as well. Just because some were slain by the sword, it's not because they were less faithful than those who escaped the edge of the sword. This is what human perspective thinks. This is what humanity thinks. We think, oh, if they were slain, well, maybe they don't have as much faith. No, they were slain and they were trusting through death, and God will raise them to be, with him. If you read the chapter carefully, well, you don't even have to read it too carefully. If you just read the chapter as it says it right there, many times we judge that we look for a uniform outcome, and if it's different to what we expect, we say, well, that's faithless, well, that's not really faith. Trust God, and God will work in unexpected ways and means. God will work with divine interventions, incredible divine interventions, not unlike what happened to Elisha. God could blind people because people trust in what they can do in this battle with what's going on, with the hiding, with being careful where to go, who to talk to, and watch. I'm going to give you some examples in a minute. But the point of faith I don't want to miss here, that I want to remember, is this. You remember when the centurion came to Jesus and he said, Lord, come to my, please heal my servant, he's sick. And Jesus said, I will come and heal him. And he says, Lord, no, you don't have to come. I'm not worthy of that. Just speak the word. And Jesus said, this is great faith. So great faith that I've not seen in all Israel. Why? Because the centurion saw with God's vision, or with God's perspective. He saw things as God sees them. He saw that the word spoken would accomplish it, and he had great faith. How is your faith today? When we're entering into this battle? When we enter into this battle, a battle is something that is fought with weapons. There is weapons of our warfare. The Bible says that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God. What that means is, human effort alone, human weapons, human ingenuity, and human ability is not enough to navigate the battle of the last days. So one of these issues is the issue of the vaccine. Some people are relying on hiding. They have a place in the mountains or in the bush or in the countryside, and they know a little cave somewhere, and they're going to hide. That's not how we navigate that battle. Now, that's good and well, but if this is the extent of how you're preparing, you're in for a surprise. Some other people feel, well, they know a certain doctor somewhere, and the doctor is going to be able to help them out with whatever they have to sign off and take the vaccine. Others rely, maybe they know some trick where they will trick the system. Some are maybe going to arm up and they want to fight, and nobody's going to touch me and my family with a needle. Some rely on going off the grid and living and subsisting food and their own power, their own food, they don't rely on the system, because restrictions will be in place. You can't be part of the system unless you get, say, the vaccine. I'm talking about the vaccine just because this is the scenario, the here and now. This is what we're dealing with. This is the approaching army that's surrounding. This is the one that people are really asking about. But you need to apply this to any scenario. To any really scenario that will develop. This just happens to be the one. For the disciples, it was the storm. For Elisha and his servant, it was the army of Assyria. So you fill in the blanks. I hope you're with me. If this is the extent of your preparation, all these human abilities and ingenuity and what you can conjure up and think up, that you will be fearful. You will be concerned. You will panic. You will freak out, because you always wonder if you've done enough, if they really bypass whatever system you implemented. Our spiritual weapons, brothers and sisters, are not carnal. They're not based on human ingenuity. It's not row harder, pull the sail down, let's hide. Elisha tells his servant, look, let's go hide in the basement down there in the city. They're not going to find us. They're going to search the whole city and they're not going to find us. He doesn't say this. He says, listen, they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And he went out and faced them, and God intervened in a miraculous way. Now, I'm not saying be foolhardy here and go presumptuous. Do what God instructs you and tells you to do. And you need faith in order to perceive that invisible world where God operates. And faith is what's pleasing to God, according to Hebrews chapter 11. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. Are we pleasing God in our approach to this final battle? Or are we displeasing God because we're so fearful and so panicking? Now, don't get me wrong. I understand. I have a family. I know that the issue of, say the vaccine, we're talking about the vaccine, whether we take the vaccine or not, what are we going to do is a serious one that we have to address. And believe me, I'm not here in an indirect way advocating, just go along with the system. I don't want anyone to jab me with any needle that I don't know what's in it. I have no interest in that. But you know what? what are the means that I will use to avoid that? If I rely only on human abilities and means, I am in for a very sad, shocking surprise, because this battle is a battle of the invisible world. Satan is marshaling his forces. That's why we need these spiritual weapons. Seeing the invisible.